Second topic here. Ross Chastain makes a move along turns 3 and 4 wide open to secure a spot in the final 4. Everybody's thoughts on this. Yeah, or
I'll go last.
Okay, I'll lead off. That was as amazing as since 1979 Daytona 500 when Yarborough and Allison got in the fight. That was as impressive as Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch final lap at Darlington, battling it out. 0.002 second finish there at Darlington in 2003. This highlight with Ross Chastain going along the turn and securing a spot will be in every major highlight from now till the end of the world when it comes to NASCAR. What an amazing move. I was listening to it on the radio, so I didn't see it live. But they were talking about it like, oh, it's a video game. It's like, I didn't even think it was. But then when I watched the Twitter and the social media stuff when I got home from driving, it almost looked like it was sped up. And the announcers were nice enough to say, this is not sped up. Ross Chastain blew everybody's mind there. And I can only imagine what Denny Hamlin was there thinking behind Brad Keselowski, thinking he had a shot, thinking that he was going to be in the final 4. And then Chastain just zips on by him.
Turns out that Chastain would have made it anyway after Brad Keselowski's disqualification, which you don't know at the time. So you got to do what you got to do. But
it would have made it more. It made it just, just Denny Hamlin sitting there going, man, I got this. And then just at the final moment, just Ross Chastain just shows up out of nowhere. The radio traffic from there was amazing.
Yeah, it would have been tied.
Couldn't have happened to a better driver.
Yeah, it would have been tied after Brad Keselowski's disqualification, and a tiebreaker would have went to Chastain.
But it was an amazing. I want to get everybody else's thoughts on that because
I'm going next. Who's next?
Who's next? Preston, you're next.
Okay, all right, I'll be next.
Got him.
That move at the time, watching it live, because I watched the entire Cup race for once. Watching it live, that had to have been one of the most bizarre things I had ever seen in my entire life of watching NASCAR. I couldn't believe it. I mean, like you said, Matt, you watched it and it looked like it was absolutely sped up. I mean, it was crazy. And I was just like, my mind was blown. I was at a loss for words. And at the same time, I was like, that was really cool. Like, I have to admit, that was very cool the way that happened. But I have to say this, there are a lot of people that say it was cool and that they love it. And then there was actually some pushback that I saw on social media that people said, oh, what a dangerous move for him to do. He should be penalized for this, this and that. And I'm just like thinking to myself, what was so dangerous about it? Like there was somebody that I saw on Facebook, it was a friendly conversation about it. I just commented on it because, he had said, maybe he needs to be penalized because Bubba Wallace did something dangerous and this is something dangerous too. And I said, there's nothing dangerous about it. It would have been more dangerous if he actually sent it off into 3 and actually just destroyed somebody, but he kept it out of the racing groove up against the wall. Everybody's spotters in the turn let them know, hey, guess what? That one car is coming on the outside. And boy, half those spotters just were in shock and awe, just like everybody else probably were. But what I'm trying to get to is people call for penalties, there should be a rule made about it now. NASCAR wants eyes on the sport these days, especially new eyes. If they come out with some stupid rule to counteract this, NASCAR is just shooting themselves in the foot at this point because we've seen it tried before. And, I know we're going to get to the whole Kyle Larson thing later. We've seen it tried before. You have a ton of eyes, new fans that don't even watch this sport, saying, holy cow, this is crazy. This is what the playoffs create right here. He had to make it in. And if NASCAR, I don't foresee NASCAR doing anything to change it. Like Steve O'Donnell said, we're not, it was cool. We're just going to let everything play out, but we're not going to change the rule 35 races in, which is bullcrap because they changed damaged vehicle policy and all that other stuff. So, you can't say that they're not going to change rules when they already do anyways. They're inconsistent, just like F1 was last year. all I gotta say is NASCAR better not come out with some stupid penalty, because this is what they want right here. The playoffs create this, and then if they're going to counteract it, well, then what was it for? You know what I'm saying? So I'm all for it. I thought it was great.
Well, what you're referring to there is Steve O'Donnell, executive vice president of NASCAR, said the Chastain move was within the rule books, and going into this weekend's or next weekend's championship race at Phoenix, there's no need to adjust the rules, but it will be looked at during the off season, as they do with all the rules, to see if there is some sort of action needed.
Oh, and well, okay, so all right, sorry to cut you off, Matt, but one other thing too, because after this happened, this prompted a lot of pushback on social media, people saying, well, if this is going to happen now, then it's going to happen at every other track. Like, do people not take the time to think about that could not be done at any other track? You won't be able to pull that off at every track that there is on the NASCAR circuit.
Yeah, I don't foresee that happening. And really what it comes down to is, does NASCAR need to make a rule about that? I'm going to say no, man. Absolutely not. You don't need to make a rule about every new situation that comes up. Now, if it does with the competitive side in the car, yeah, I mean, you have your rules set in stone there. But for a one-off thing, I don't foresee it when we go back to Martinsville in the spring, seeing anybody do that again. Or it's going to be tough for them to pull it off like Chastain did. Would it happen? Will it happen again? I'm going to hedge my bets to say everybody out there who was racing saw it done once and it was successful. Could it be done? I mean, he ran an 18-second lap. Am I saying they're going to wall ride it for 500 laps? No, absolutely not. But the last 10 laps, you never know. But with the suspension the way it is, I highly doubt you're going to see that happen again. I don't think a rule change should be. Leave the rules alone. It was an amazing finish. Don't even talk about making rule changes, NASCAR. Austin, what's your take on it?
It was amazing. I was watching the race, and here I'm watching Christopher Bell win the race, lock himself in. Denny Hamlin locking himself in. And next thing I know, they point the camera back to the 11 car, and there's a red car beside it about to punt Brad Keselowski. And I'm like, what? Who is that? What red car was that close? And then about time my phone rings, and it's Charlie. And I answered, and I'm like, what? And then it replays, and I'm like, what was that? And I was like, then it clicked, light bulb went off. And I'm like, this dude, what did he do to get up there that quick? The set that it took to do that and the guts, that I gained a little bit more respect for Ross Chastain. I think we all lost some respect for him when he was driving over his head, taking people out, or not taking people out, but
I always liked Chastain.
Kind of, driving over his head, doing stupid stuff.
Driving past the limits a little bit.
Yeah, not driving stupidly, just
drove past the limits there.
Just need to. Well, that's a different type of driving past the limits, but it took a set like that. I mean, he was 2 points out. The two cars in front of him that needed to pass were already in the corner, and he did the unthinkable. He grabbed a gear, disappeared, and locked himself in. That right there shows you that boy has no dang give up, nothing. Like Ross Chastain for president. That's what I think about it, because it was. We've seen the video game pass tried multiple times. Nobody can complain it, and leave it up to Florida man to get it done.
True, Florida man.
It was amazing. man, 100,000%.
I agree. Yeah, man. What about you, Charlie? To wrap up this topic.
All right. So it was great for that situation. Yes. Definitely brought a whole lot of eyes. I've heard different. Like Rick and Bubba has talked about it for 2 days straight. If you know who Rick and Bubba is, they've talked about it multiple times for the past couple of days on the show, and it's on Twitter, it's on TikTok, it's everywhere. That move. So it's being talked about all over the world, I'm sure. So, it has brought a lot of eyes on NASCAR, and they need to be very, 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 very careful where they go with it from here. So in that situation, he needed to pass a bunch of cars to make sure he was locked in. And that was the move he needed to make to get there. He made it. These cars this year allow for that type of move. They hold up. Where years past, if you tried that, as soon as you hit the wall, you were stopping. You wasn't going anywhere. You were going to cut a tire or something like that. However, I got to play devil's advocate a little bit. And I was telling Austin this, what was it, Sunday afternoon or something like that. We're praising it now because it worked. And I know we can what if this to death. But that car could have just as easily wheel hopped up onto the safer barrier and wound up getting up into the catch fence or something like that with the amount of speed that it was carrying going down the straightaway into the fence there and stuff like that. So I'll play devil's advocate just from a safety aspect there. So I get it. Hey, kudos to him for making the move for sure. So, because there's at that time, he's probably the only one out there that would have made that move without maybe just, he didn't bulldoze cars out of the way. He did it. The only car that was damaged was his. So, it's not like he tore up half the field trying to get his way up there. It's not like he literally nailed people all day long, a lot like Hamlin. So,
you could have said that on air, Austin.
Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt Charlie.
So I see it both ways, because yes, it worked, but it could have just as easily went south real quick if that car could have climbed a wall and gotten into the catch fence there, which it didn't. But so I don't know.
It's a big what if, and
Yeah,
I wasn't the same thing because
is.
me and you had talked about it. It's a good move and it was a bad move. I think it's a one and done move. Like nobody else should try it. I mean, I get people are going to want to try it, and if
I think it depends on the situation. Like, look, if he's in that same spot in the spring Martinsville race, and it's the last lap, should he do that to try for a win? Absolutely not.
Everybody would be disappointed though if he doesn't.
They
hell
would,
with everybody.
but it's a spring race. It's not
a spring
the
race.
cutoff
There's a
race to the
lot
Final
of time in
Four.
between the spring race and then. I think it's a situational based thing, because if that's the case, you're about to have half the field just sail it off down the back straightaway, and I can guarantee you at that point,
VRL
NASCAR is going to
Racing
step in and be like, all right, well, that's enough of that.
All right.
So,
well, fair enough. Hey, Ramblin' About Racing Nation, like what you just saw, make sure to check us out at ramblinaboutracing.com and all your major podcast platforms for the audio version of the show. Or if you just like watching Ramblin' About Racing, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for upcoming episodes.